Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Lectors Training on Sunday Readings. Today we'll prepare for September 13, the 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time. First, let me share some margin notes from our reference books. The first reading points out that anger and resentment should give way to mercy, and that the decision to forgive one's neighbor rather than to continue to be angry is best made while thinking about the end of one's life and one's decision to follow the commandments. For a better proclamation, say, Sirach, Sirach. You can also say, Sirach, Sirach. Begin the reading in a firm, almost stern tone of voice, but lighten your tone as you speak of forgiveness here. Pause after each question, allowing the assembly time to reflect on how they would respond. At the end of the first two questions, raise your voice because these are questions demanding a yes or no answer. But on the third question, let your voice go down at the end because this is a question which does not demand a yes or no answer. Begin the proclamation of the final verses from here up to the end in a slower pace and in a gentle tone of voice that will help the assembly ponder the last days, the commandments, and the covenant. Here is one more word, enmity. Enmity. Don't forget, look at the assembly when you say this, in the middle, and at the end of every thought and sentence. First reading. A reading from the book of Sirach. Wrath and anger are hateful things, yet the sinner hugs them tight. The vengeful will suffer the Lord's vengeance, for he remembers their sins in detail. Forgive your neighbor's injustice. Then when you pray, your own sins will be forgiven. Could anyone nourish anger against another and expect healing from the Lord? Could anyone refuse mercy to another like himself? Can he seek pardon for his own sins? If one who is but flesh cherishes wrath, who will forgive his sins? Remember your last days. Set enmity aside. Remember death and decay, and cease from sin. Think of the commandments. Hate not your neighbor. Remember the Most High's covenant and overlook faults. The word of the Lord. The second reading tells us that for Paul, all our decisions must be guided by selflessness and love, the definition of living and dying in the Lord. State the opening line emphatically. Avoid a sing-song proclamation of the parallel lines about living and dying. Give a lengthy pause after came to life, as if the punctuation were a colon. This will prepare the assembly to hear what follows. Again, look at the assembly when you say this in the middle and at the end of every thought and sentence. Second reading. A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Brothers and sisters, none of us lives for oneself, and no one dies for oneself. For if we live for the Lord, and if we die for the Lord. So then, whether we live or die, we are the Lord's. For this is why Christ died and came to life, that he might be Lord of both the dead and the living. The word of the Lord. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Join me again next week for the readings of September 20, the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Until then, goodbye and God bless.